Hey, what's up? What's going on? It's your girl, Mary Jane. Please like, comment, subscribe to my YouTube channel. It'd be greatly appreciated from the bottom of my heart, my peeps, my peoples. So I would just like to ask everybody if you can please like the video to let me know if you're watching it, if you want me to continue to review this show. It'll help me. So I would really, really, really appreciate it. So thank you, everybody. Let's get into it. Let's talk about Baller season 3, episode 4. First of all, I didn't know this show came back on because this used to be one of my shows, and I love the music on the show. The music on this show is just like top notch. I haven't, watched the show in the last 5 years that could ever compare to the music that this show produces and they have in the background. The music is just on point. And at the end of this episode, the song they play is Meek Mill's. So let's talk about Spencer. Spencer, the episode starts off with Spencer talking to his girlfriend or someone he's messing with. I think her name is Chloe. I'm not sure. But he's FaceTiming her, and basically he needs to ejaculate into a cup and bring, his sperm sample to the doctor because Spencer's having some problems with, knowing that if he's able to, produce kids, and just to see what's wrong with any of his male organs, basically. So he's doing a FaceTime with her. She's all, in her lingerie. She's moving around or whatever. And it's funny. Then he takes like a screenshot of her and it's like, okay. She was like, did you take a shot? He was like, no, why would I have to take a shot? Because I already got the real thing, but he really did. So it just shows you how people that are celebrities do this stuff on the phone because they're just like normal people. But this is how their accounts get hacked, and we see it. We see it all over the internet. So, so he ends up ejaculating, putting the sperm in a cup, and he's like kind of nervous because he doesn't know how his health is going because he does have some health issues. So moving forward, he goes to his office. He's there with Joe, and they're talking about the league, the football league. The owners are coming up against Spence because Spence wants to start a football team in Vegas, and so far he's rallying support for his for what he wants and everything, but there are some people with oppositions going towards him, so he's just trying to figure out where he can get in. Can he do this? Can he not? And why are people treating him like they are treating him? But he's going to continue to fight, continue to go. And Joe's questioning him why are you really doing this? And then Spence finally says it's because can't nobody hold me down. Can't nobody stop me. Fight the powers that be. And basically Spencer says he's on the good side. He's on the good team. And so Joe is like, okay, that's what I like to hear. The egotistical Spence being egotistical. And so they're talking, and then in the meantime, in the conversation, Joe gets a phone call, and it's the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, and he's saying, you know what, Vernon is cut. You know why? Because he invested his endorsement money in a marijuana growing, facility and distributing, and he's upset about it. And he was like, you promised me that, this was gonna stop. So Vernon is cut. He's cut from the team. So I don't want to hear nothing. And so now Joe's like, oh God, I got to break this to, Spence. So Joe says to Spence, I'm supporting you with, moving getting the team in Vegas. I really gonna need the same support in return. And then he goes, that was the owner of the Cowboys, and he's cutting Vince because he is still distributing. He invested all his endorsement money into the marijuana business, and they can't have that. The league does not want that to happen. And so, Joe is like, oh man, this guy doesn't listen. But Joe forgets that when he went to the distributing facility with Vernon, he was down in it. He was all up in it. He was testing it. He was smoking it. And he was with Reggie. They was chilling. They was having a good time. So now Spence and Joe has to go see the owner of the Cowboys. And then they got to call Vince and talk to Vince on the phone. But in between time and meantime, we get back to Ricky. Ricky is in the kitchen with his father, Dennis, and T or whatever. And so the doorbell rings, and there's a bouquet of flowers, beautiful red roses or whatever, that he sent to Amber to apologize to her. And so Ricky, he picks up the flowers. He's going, these flowers are beautiful. And T says, oh yeah, they must be from Amber. And Spencer, and Ricky's like, oh, she must be apologizing to me for the way that she's been acting and behaving and all that other stuff. And so T goes, no, fool, you sent them to her to apologize for what you did to her. And he was like, I don't remember that. When did that happen? And so then the father also says, hey, listen, I followed Tom Brady on Instagram. And then T goes, you too old to be on Instagram. He goes, you're never too old. And he was like, oh, so you be putting up them pictures of Pam Grier? He was like, yeah, she's my everyday Wednesday. She's my thirsty. She's my woman. She's everything. And so, he goes, she doesn't look like that anymore. He was like, what are you talking about? She is always fuckable. And so, no, they're going back and forth talking about Pam Grier. Pam Grier was the #1 beauty queen back in the day. She's still beautiful today anyway. And so then also Dennis, Ricky's father is like, oh, look at this one practicing together. And so then, Ricky was like, they didn't ask me to practice. And the father's like, oh, they're all the way in Boston. He was like, well, one of them lives here in Miami. The other one lives in Texas. The other one lives here. So how come they didn't invite me? So, Ricky, he's upset. He's mad. And he was like, you know what, T? I want you to get a practice team together. Don't bring that shitty, quarterback from the Raiders or something, he said. And so T was like, okay, I'll do that. And so then, Ricky is still confused about these flowers and everything that, was sent to him, and he's acting like he can't remember. So T and Dennis, they both look at each other like, okay, he's suffering from memory loss, or he has some type of concussion. So we're gonna see where they're gonna take that situation with Ricky, because Ricky, Ricky's making money. Ricky's doing good so far too as well, but they're noticing that there's something off about his memory. He's not being able to remember things. And so I guess they're touching on the topic of sports players with concussions and not being diagnosed at all. So then Ricky is too funny. Ricky was like, put a team together because I'm going to go practice. These dudes think they can practice without me? Nah, I'm going to put my own team together. And so we get back to, Spencer and Joe. They still talking in the office. And he was like, you know what? And then Spence says, you know what? I can't be down with the boys club. Why? Because I'm not white enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not clean enough. And and so they laugh or whatever. So now but they're getting together to go see the owner of the Dallas Cowboys to make sure that, what's his name, Vernon, doesn't get cut. And so as they're chilling or whatever, Joe, Joe is just like, he don't know what to do. He was like, there's always a problem. It's always something. He was like, I can't handle this. So then we get to Charles. Charles is talking to Larry about, Kassan. And, Larry was like, well, I don't give a damn about Kassan. I don't want to hear it, and all this other stuff. And so Charles is trying to advocate for Kassan, saying he'll be good for the team, blah, 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 and all this other stuff. And so, Larry's not hearing it. And then the phone rings, and it's Kassan agent Jason. And Jason basically says the same thing that Charles says. And so then now, Larry was like, okay, let's get a practice together. Let's see what he can do. Let's see what he's made of or whatever. So Jason said, hey, Charles, I'll schedule everything with you. We'll see what happens. And so now getting ready to see Kassan practice to see where he's at and can he make the team or whatever. But Larry's not feeling Kassan for certain reasons. He doesn't think he's really a good player or a good person, and plus it seems like Larry doesn't want to give any shine to Charles. Or is he trying to teach Charles a lesson, or is he trying to teach Charles how to really maneuver yourself in this game, in this league? Because you can't go to bat for everybody. You can't believe everybody. Sometimes you got to go to war with people over the smallest things. But it also seems like Larry's kind of hating on Charles, and Charles is just like this innocent person that just wants to help and save everybody. And I think, Larry's trying to teach him a lesson that you can't be soft, you can't be nice, you got to be hostile, you can't let people get away with anything. Basically, that's what it seems like, Larry's trying to teach Charles. But Charles is just not getting it. He's just not understanding, because he used to be a football player, and now he's an advocate for sports people and for a team. He got his own office. But I think, Larry wants him to be tough, or wants him to think like he thinks. And I don't know if Larry is kind of jealous of Charles, because he has good relationships with the coaches and the players, and people like Charles a lot. So we'll see what happens with that situation. And it's just too funny because you see how Charles just really wants everything to work out, how he just going to bat for people and going to bat for players, but Larry's not hearing it, Larry's not feeling it. He keeps putting pit holes and things in the way of Charles getting where he needs to go. And he's also don't give Charles his accolades for things that he has accomplished, and Charles is feeling kind of slighted by it. And so Charles do talk to his wife about the situation. She's trying her best to support Charles as well, because we know Charles don't want to go back to selling cars. So we'll see what happens with that situation. And then we get to Ricky. Ricky goes to see Amber, and Amber's moving, and Amber's talking mad trash. She was like, what are you going to do next? You're just this, you're just that. You're almost washed up, but you're just going to be a has-been and all this other stuff, and you don't need to worry about the baby that I'm having. It don't concern you. You don't have no rights. I have a right to choose, and I have a right to choose to not want you in the child's life. And Ricky's like, come on, why are you going there? Then Ricky goes, I could say a lot about you, but you know what? I'm not even going to say a lot about you. I'm not even going to go there about you or whatever. And so Amber gives him Jesus, God, Mary, I think Mary and Jesus in her arms. She gives that to Ricky to put inside, the moving truck, because she is moving. And so it's just like, yo, why are you so hardcore, Amber? But Amber, she's really, showing people that, not all people that get pregnant by celebrities and sports player actually, want their money or want them around, whatever. She's like the opposite of what we know. And so then so Kassan, he goes to the practice or whatever, and he does good, he does well. And then the coach that's watching Kassan practice says, hey, I want him. And then now Larry, Charles's boss, is like, I don't want Kassan. So now Charles and Larry go back and forth, and Charles is like, you're gonna let politics, you're gonna let all this other stuff get to you, where you're not gonna sign this guy and all this other stuff. I don't understand what you're doing, Larry. And Larry was like, it ain't. Larry's like, F you, keep moving, keep going, I don't care, whatever. So we'll see if Kassan actually gets signed to a different team, or is he actually going to get signed, and is Larry going to give the okay? Because it seems like Larry wants to teach Charles a lesson, I guess, to stick to the team and stick to whatever he tells him to do. So we'll see. So Spencer and Joe, they're on their way to go see the Dallas Cowboy owner and everything, to try to get him not to cut Vernon from investing in marijuana and all that other stuff. And so then when Vince and Joe shows up to the Cowboys hotel where he's staying at some resort, the Cowboy coach owner, he goes, oh, look at Dorothy's, and look at the Dorothy's here, or whatever. He's like the fairy tale Dorothy's, whatever. And so Joe goes, I give you a guarantee, I give you a promise that Vernon's out of the weed business, he's gonna stay out of the weed business. And so he goes, oh, a second guarantee, how great is that? So you're gonna give me another second guarantee? So so that was funny. But we got to get back to Joe and Spencer. They were in their Porsche or whatever. It's a Porsche, I don't know, it's a car that's over $200,000 or $300,000. And they called Vernon. It was like, Vernon, you got to get the F out the weed business now. Vernon said, what you talking about? And so then, his boy gets on the phone, Ricky, what is his, it's his boy, is it his name, Ricky? I think his name is Ricky. It gets on the phone and he starts to just talk crack, saying F you, Vernon. I mean, he starts to say F you, Joe, F you, Spencer, I'm not getting out the weed business, I don't care what you say. And so, no, it's not Ricky, it's Reggie. Because Reggie is like, Vernon's wingman. He helps Vernon out a lot with making good decisions, but sometimes he get in the way of Vernon's progress. And so, and this is what it instances where he's kind of like getting in the way, but it's like, how can the league tell him what he should buy and what he should not buy? So it also goes to what's going on today with Colin Kaepernick, where when you belong to these organizations, there's rules and regulations you have to follow, and only certain people can step out the box and make money doing other investments or whatever. So Reggie was like, F you, Spencer, fuck you, this and that. He was like, we ain't getting out. How are you going to tell us what to do? How we invest our money, this and that. And so then, Spencer was like, F you, Reggie. He's out of the weed business. And he throws, the cell phone into the street. That's like the 10th cell phone this season. Spencer has broken. Then Joe was like, that was my phone you threw. And so then Spencer was like, no, oh my God, my bad, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was your phone, I'll get you another phone. And so Joe's upset, he's mad, but he's not too mad because he knows this is kind of like his fault, because he was actually partaking in the weed when he was supposed to be getting Vernon and Reggie not to invest in the weed business, or distributing and all that other good stuff. And so then after that, so now we get back to, they meet up with the cow. So Joe and Spencer, they meet up with the cowboy owner, whatever. He goes, so you know what? I don't give a shit about Vernon. But what I want to know, and she was like, I really like Vernon. He's a good guy. But what I want to know is what you're doing, Spence, with bringing, a football team to Vegas. And so, the cowboy coach, he wants to know more. So they have a conversation. But they have to wait on the Cowboys owner forever because he has to get dressed. He has to get a massage and all this other stuff. So he finally says, okay, Vernon can be on the team. We're not going to cut him, but he got to get out of the weed business. And so then, Spence and Joe, they're rushing because they need to go see Wayne, because Wayne is supposed to be behind them in this Vegas deal, because he's Mr. Vegas, you know what I mean? And so they're trying to meet up with Wayne, and they get stuck in Miami traffic, and it's just like, and it's like maybe 20, maybe 100, maybe 2 miles away, and it says it's going to take them half an hour to get there. So, Spencer talks about his father, tells a story about his father, and how his father said, when he met the owner of his company, that he's just a regular guy. I could have been that guy, but I waited too long. And so now Spence and Joe, they leave their Porsche, their $200,000 car, $300,000 car, in the midst of traffic, and they start walking to go catch up with Wayne. And Wayne is trying to bounce on them and say, hey, listen, you guys are not ready for this, because if you can't show up on time for a meeting, you can't show up on time for bringing a team to Vegas and all that other stuff. And so, Wayne was like, I got a plane to catch, I got a jet to catch, and I got to bounce, so I'm out. So that's when Joe says, hey, I know you fly privately, so they only leave when you tell them to. They only move when you tell them to move. So, we have the Dallas Cowboy owner. He really admires you, other than himself. So, he wants to meet up and just have a drink and see if we can make this thing happen, to get, a football team in Vegas. So then Wayne says, okay, all right. So then now they're giving each other's daps, so now they're going to have a meeting. So we'll see what happens with that. And then one of the most funniest parts too of the show was when T and Ricky set up to have practice or whatever. And when they set up to have this practice and everything, this practice and everything, so Ricky is not doing good catching the ball or whatever. The guy's throwing, the quarterback is throwing over him, under him, and he's just not throwing right or whatever. And so then T is like, damn man, what's going on? And so then Spence, so then Ricky asked to talk to the quarterback. He was like, hey, Ricky was like, yo, why you keep throwing the ball over my head or over here or over that? It's not, can't you understand the plays that I'm calling or whatever? And so the kid was like, yo, at my school, they don't even call plays. And so then Ricky goes, so what school do you go to? He goes, I go to Miami High. And he was like, what? Is that a high school? He goes, yeah, it's a high school I go to. He was like, yo, get the fuck out of here. And so then, the kid is like, really? You really gonna tell me to get out of here? And so then, Ricky goes, get the fuck out of here before I kick your ass. And then Ricky goes up to T. He was like, T, I'm so ashamed of you. I'm so disappointed in you. Pay these kids. I'm taking an Uber home. And right now, I really hate you right now. I really hate you right now. Because Ricky's thinking that he's playing against some tough people, some people in the league, but he's actually playing against high school kids. And T tells the kids, T throws the football at the kids and tell them, hey, listen, I'm not paying you guys. You guys really messed up. So that was so funny. Ricky was like, yo, are you in high school? What school? What? High school? I was like, yeah, it's too funny. That was the most funniest scene of the night. And so, then, Ricky bounces and T's yelling at the kids. And then then we get to, what's his name? So then now is at the end of the show, and Ricky, he comes home or whatever, and he was like, and so he's calling, T, like, T, where you at? Where you at? And T was like, I'm in the house. He was like, oh, he was like, where's that fish something at? He was like, it's in the refrigerator, because we can't leave it up because once you take the top of it, kind of like gets expire, and so Ricky was like, I don't see it. And so then, T gets up, he goes in the refrigerator, he goes, it's right behind the peanut butter. And then, so Ricky goes, I don't see it. And then, so T realized, hey, where are you? He was like, I'm in the kitchen. And T looks around, you're not in the kitchen, Ricky. Then Ricky looks around, and then there's a white kid that comes up to him, and then Ricky punches him in the face. And then Ricky says, hey, T, call the police, call Spencer, because somebody just broke in the house and I just punched them. And then, Ricky realizes he's in the neighbor's house. He's in the wrong house. And so, T's like, oh shit. So now we see that Ricky's really having some problems with his memory lapse. And he's not even, realizing he's in the wrong house. He can't even, feel his own house or look around and see was it is his own house. He didn't recognize it at all until he actually hit the boy. So until next episode, peace. I'll pray for everyone in Houston, Texas, that they get the protection, health, strength, and well-being. And if people are going to donate to Texas, try to find the right organizations to donate to, not organizations that steal money. Peace. I'm out.